All of which is to say, there is a real sense of history because the people who lived it are still passing along those stories and are able to articulate why the Sounders are different. Not to put too neat of a bow on this, but Inter Miami has none of that. They have the glitz, the glamour, and lots of legitimately amazing players, but they have no sense of history. I applaud their efforts to try to manufacture some of that, but that's what they're doing. In many ways, it has been successful. They won the 2023 Leagues Cup, and they set the points record on the way to winning the Supporters Shield last year. Miami remain one of the elite teams in MLS, and I have no doubt that on their day, they could have won this game. But this was not their day. Christian, Obed, Alex, Reed, Jackson, Yamar, Andrew, Jesus, Pedro, Rothrock, and Osaze all made sure of that. Brian Schmetzer put on a masterclass of preparation, motivation, and innovation. It didn't matter that he was missing no fewer than 7 players who otherwise would have been expected to play at least some role in this game. Each of his subs worked to absolute perfection, none of which were more inspired than bringing in Georgie Manungu for Jesus Ferreira, pushing Rothrock to the number 9 spot for the last 15 minutes. Only 5 minutes after Manungu came on, he drew a penalty with his patented dribbling. And of course, it was Rothrock in that number 9 role that led to him scoring the goal that will be replayed for many years to come and tore the roof off of Lumen Field with the explosion of ecstasy it unleashed. The only shame is that so much of this conversation following the match was surrounded around the fight after the whistle. And let's make no mistake, Miami were the instigators and the perpetrators of the worst acts. Luis Suarez, chief among them. I don't need to go through a blow-by-blow of the whole thing. In fact, if you want to read a blow-by-blow, I would recommend checking out my story on Sounder at Heart. But the fight seems to have started with him not getting the response he wanted from Obed Vargas while chastising the 20-year-old and then fully spitting on head of security Gene Ramirez. In between those two incidents, Sergio Busquets punched Vargas, Thomas Aviles attacked Jackson Reagan, and a bunch of other players looked like petulant crybabies. I'm sure some Sounders will end up being punished eventually in this whole thing, but that's how these things usually go. But my main fear is that MLS is going to try to wiggle out of taking responsibility by deferring to any Leagues Cup level punishment. As a soccer public, though, we cannot let that happen. The CBA clearly outlines that Don Garber has the authority to discipline players, regardless of which competition something like this happens in, especially when it crosses an especially egregious line, as I think everyone agrees happened here. But the more lasting narrative should be entirely focused on the Sounders. There's a lot of daylight between now and MLS Cup. Plenty of things can change between now and even the start of the playoffs. They are still just 12th in the Supporters Shield standings. Right now, though, the Sounders seem to have built as resilient and deep of a team as any in MLS history. They faced down the reigning champions of South America, Europe, and CONCACAF, and more than held their own against them. They dismantled Messi in front of 70,000 fans. They trolled Luis Suarez so hard that he melted down on the field. I am excited to see what they do next. This new era, this does feel like a real start of a new era for the Sounders. It is a lot of fun. Everything is not perfect. I'm not trying to paint too rosy of a picture. But right now, it does feel really good to be rooting for this team, to be following this team, to be writing about this team.